All right. So on the Slack policies and how we use Slack our way, we have a few different policies here. Now, they're pretty loose policies. They're to help keep things organized. We've been running with Slack for a long time, maybe almost a decade. So it's important that we keep Slack organized because it has a lot of data in it. So there's a few policies here that we expect from our freelancers. The first one is emoji reactions. We want to make sure that when we send out a message that we're tagging you in or that we're tagging everybody in, that you're reacting with an emoji. It doesn't matter for us which emoji you use. We like the variety and the personality that comes from what emojis people select. So don't feel free to blend in with the team. We appreciate the diversity of our team. But the emoji reactions let us know that somebody has seen the message and we don't have to follow up with you to double check if you've seen it. Second thing, and one of the most important things I think, is the threaded replies. You can see here there's 7 replies to this thread and 3 replies to this thread. What happens when people do not reply in thread? Things get pretty disorganized really quickly, and it's hard for us to search through conversations. So you can think of this like if you're sending 3 or 4 emails out for the same topic, you're going to have multiple threads of that same conversation. So we want to all keep it under the same thread. Then we want to make sure that everything is fun and professional, like we're trying to use friendly language, avoiding offensive language. There's a really great video. I'm going to link it in here, but it's talking about synchronous versus asynchronous communication. And it's this video by this German guy. And basically, what it says is the more detailed a conversation needs to be, the more that necessitates some sort of documentation, maybe like a Google Doc. But the more emotional something needs to be, maybe you're communicating some criticism or some feedback, or you need to reprimand somebody, like that should happen in more of a voice note or more of a video call or a video clip. You want to try to approach it with more emotion. So if you think of this kind of like this balance of emotion versus documentation, the more emotional something needs to be, the more you should be leveraging emojis to show your inflection, those sort of things. So always make sure that you're being mindful of the emotional response of whoever you're sending the message to, especially since we're cross-cultural and in different cultures we have different ways of speaking with each other. And so that it's very important that we have a very solid understanding of how to leverage the technology to lighten our blow if there's harsh communication or if there's a little bit more tense things to communicate. So that, yeah, that's all I'll say about that. Then we have a support channel. It's actually called New Freelancer Support. So you can find that. If you don't see it here immediately, you can do Control K or Command K on the Mac and type in any channel name as long as you have the account to be able to see that. And then you can go to New Freelancer Support. This is where you can ask questions about how to get set up or anything like that. And you can tag here. You can see Tiziana did a great job at that. Like, is anyone experiencing, or does anyone have experience with Google Analytics? So she's asking about programmatic things. And so that's a very helpful way to get support from your team. And then we use client-specific channels. You can see here we have different client names. If we're talking specifically about one client, so you can see here we're talking about this one client, but if we're talking about multiple clients, or we're talking about different types of processes or policies, then we're using an ops channel. Or if we're talking, in general, like that should be anything that's not policy, but still general. So here I'm talking about like, celebrating birthdays and dropping your birthdays in this document so we can celebrate that. Then tagging messages, we want to make sure that we're always tagging somebody or everybody. So we're using the tag here to tag everybody. And then open office calls, you'll see that a lot in general. We name it as open office. anybody has the capacity to open up open office huddles in any channel. So this is pretty cool about our organization. We try to operate with this open door policy. Like if you imagine we're all working in the same office space, and if I have my door closed, it kind of implies that, hey, don't bother me. But if I keep my door open, that implies like, hey, you can walk in whenever you want. We can engage into a conversation. So even if you are new, like you can open up an open office huddle and ensure that anybody can step in. You don't have to keep your camera on if you don't want to. You don't have to keep your mic on if you don't want to. You can just hang out. You can always jump into open offices. Just consider that like a welcome message whenever you see it. And then just using group channels for general conversations, kind of like we said before, like we want to avoid siloed messages. So the only messages that I'll send to a direct freelancer are things that are private, confidential, sharing passwords, those sort of things. Anything outside of that should belong in a group channel. If you are a guest user and you don't have access to a group channel, you can always create a thread between multiple people and use that as a group channel. So those are our Slack policies. Let us know if you have any improvements or suggestions or any questions on that. We appreciate you and have fun with this.